Hey everybody, and welcome back to Funny Bug Bees and Woodworks on YouTube. Really appreciate you stopping by. If this is your first time, please hit like and subscribe. We come out with a new video all the time teaching you how to build these components. Today's project, as you can see, is going to be how to build inner hive covers. We also sell these on our website, and here's a coupon code to get 10% off just for YouTube visitors if you'd like to purchase one instead of learning how to make one. So what we need to do now is head out to the shop, get ready to start producing this product. Stick with us. We'll teach you how. Quick safety announcement. As always, you guys don't see me wearing them because of the shot angles. Never work on any of your power equipment without safety glasses, hearing protection, a push stick, or a push block. You'll also notice that I don't have the blade guard on my blade, and the only reason that is for visual clarity so you guys can see the cuts better. I do not recommend removing your blade guard. I recommend keeping it on your saw at all times. Let's get to making the cuts. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another project with Funny Bug Bees and Woodworks. Today we're going to be making 8-frame inner hive covers. I'll show you everything you're going to need to do this. We'll start out with materials. 3/4 inch thick stock that's at least 19 1/8 inches long, and you're going to need a piece that's at least 4 inches wide. Or if you're working from scrap, we're going to need 4 pieces of this that are 3/4 of an inch wide by 3/4 of an inch wide by 19 1/8 inches long, so you can use scrap in your shop. Out of this, we're going to cut 2 pieces that are 13 3/4 of an inch long by 3/4 by 3/4, and 2 pieces which are 19 1/8 inches long by 3/4 by 3/4. You're also going to need a piece of scrap lauan plywood that we will cut to final dimensions. Either a crown stapler or brad nails and a hammer and some wood glue. Let's go ahead and get to work on this project. We'll show you how to do it. Alright guys, the first thing I'm going to do is take the lauan plywood. The final dimension on this for width is 13 inches for an 8-frame inner hive cover. I know this piece is not square, so my first step is going to be to square 2 edges to each other, and then I'll use my miter fence to square the perpendicular edges to those 2 faces. So I'll go ahead and get this cut the first time at 13 1/4, and then I'll turn it around and cut it at 13 so that those 2 faces are square to each other. Okay guys, what we have now is a piece of lauan plywood that's got 2 parallel faces, and that is 13 inches wide. So what we'll do now is set up the miter fence, turn it 90 degrees, and reference off one of the edges we now know to be square to cut the 2 long edges perpendicular to the straight edge. That'll give us 90-degree corners all the way around. And the final dimension on this, for your lauan plywood, the length is going to be 19 1/8 inches, so that's what we'll end up with after our cuts. A square piece of lauan plywood, 19 1/8 inches by 13 inches. Alright guys, so you can see what I've ended up with here is a piece that's 19 1/8 inches long by 13 inches wide, and if we put a square on it, we'll see that the corners are perfectly square, which is exactly what we want. Put this to the side and we'll start our next cut. Alright guys, so your next step is to take your 1/4 inch sheet of lauan plywood that you just cut to size, and we're going to cut a 1 inch entrance hole, roughly center. Doesn't have to be exact, but try to get it about centered in that, and that'll be so that the bees have an entrance into the upper section of this, so that they can have an upper entrance or a rear entrance below the outer hive cover. So we'll go ahead and get that cut now. This is what you should end up with, a 1-inch hole, roughly center of your lauan plywood. Okay, now let's get to making the frame. Alright guys, now that you've got your lauan plywood cut to size with the 1-inch entrance hole in it, you're going to take your 3/4 inch scrap stock and we're going to get it cut for the frame. Let's go ahead and do that now. Okay everybody, to make your frame, this is the frame that goes around the lauan plywood that forms the frame for your inner high cover. What you're going to need is 3/4 inch stock that's at least 19 1/8 inches long. We're going to need 2 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch by 19 1/8 pieces, and we're going to need 2 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch by 13 3/4 inch pieces. So we'll go ahead and get that cut now. Alright guys, once you've got your 4 pieces that are 3/4 by 3/4 inch and 19 1/8 inches long, what we need to do is trim 2 of these, cross cut 2 of these to 13 3/4. We'll go ahead and do that now. So this is what we're left with. 2 pieces 3/4 by 3/4 by 19 1/8. 2 pieces 3/4 by 3/4 by 13 3/4. We'll move to the next step. Alright guys, our next step is going to be to cut a groove in our lumber for the lauan plywood to sit in. That's going to be 3/8 of an inch deep and 1/4 of an inch wide. Now we'll do that by setting this against our fence, setting our blade on our table saw to 3/8 of an inch deep, and since that's a 1/8 inch blade, I'll make 2 passes. The first with the fence set at 1/8 of an inch, and the second with the fence set at 1/4 of an inch. This will cut a 1/4 inch wide groove in this wood 1/8 inches from the edge. We'll do that on all 4 pieces. Let me give you a close-up of this so you can see what it looks like. Okay, right here you can see we ended up with a 1/4 inch groove down each piece of the stock. And that's the groove that our lauan plywood is going to fit in. Alright, let's move to the next step. Okay guys, our next step is going to be to cut a 3/4 inch rabbet out of the short pieces. So your 13 3/4 inch pieces, those 2 pieces, we need to cut a 3/4 inch rabbet, or dado, but it's actually a rabbet. We're going to use our table saw to do this. We're not going to use a dado blade. We're just going to make passes with our table saw using our miter fence. So we want to cut a 3/8 inch deep by 3/4 inch wide, okay, rabbet in this, so that the end pieces will fit inset into them 3/8 of an inch. Let's go ahead and get that done. Okay guys, with our miter fence, we know that our short piece was 13 3/4 of an inches long. So we've set our miter fence to 13 inches. That means our blade will come back 3/4 of an inch from the far edge, And then once we make that pass, we'll just lift up our gate on our miter fence and keep making passes to clear out all the rest of the wood from there to the end. When you're doing this, you want the slot that you cut facing down. Okay? We want to cut the rabbet on the same face as the slot. So face the slot, you just cut with the table saw down when you put this in your fence. I'll give you a close-up on this to show you what you need to end up with. Okay guys, this is what you want to end up with. On the same face that we put our groove with the table saw, we're going to cut out a 3/8 deep by 3/4 inch wide rabbet. Okay guys, so to cut your rear entrance, you're going to take your short piece, the 13 3/4 inch piece, and what we want to do is we want to cut a 3/8 inch deep groove through the thick portion on the opposing face from the groove that you cut. So you'll see we've got a groove cut here. We want to cut through this face. So this face, the thick portion, needs to go down. In other words, your groove will face away from you, not down, but away from you on the table saw. So we're going to set our fence at 7 1/4 inches. That'll get it where we need it, and then we'll cut out 1 inch. So from 7 1/4 to 6 1/4 will give us a 1 inch wide groove for the rear entrance. We'll get that cut now. Alright, so we're almost done, guys and gals. What we've got here is all of our lumber cut to the specs that I gave you. And before we glue and nail any of this, we're going to do a test fit. So take your long pieces, or your long pieces first, and get that put on your next one. Make sure when you're doing your test fit and when you put this together that you've got a wide side of this lumber and a narrow side where you cut your groove. Make sure the wide side or narrow side is always facing the same direction, so all the wide sides facing up, etc. All the narrow sides facing down, so everything, you don't have any problems getting it together. Then just slide all of your pieces together and get your test fit done. Once we do this test fit, okay, everything is perfect so far, so we can go to the last step. Okay everybody, so we've cut all our pieces, we've got our rear entrance cut, everything's to size. Test fit to make sure it's going to work before we try to assemble it with glue. So now all we need to do is take our wood glue, fill all the grooves, and start putting this together. So that's what we'll do now. Put you a good thick bead of glue down the length of these long boards. Put one in. Do the same with your other long board. Make sure when you put these together that the thick side of the wood faces the same direction on all 4 pieces. There we go. Now put your short pieces on. Make sure on the short pieces you get some glue all the way out to the end. That's where it's going to connect to the long pieces. Make sure you put the same side up, thick side up on this piece, thick side up on the others. Everything's nice and tight, and do your last piece. A little bit of glue on the ends there. Make sure same side goes up on all the pieces, thick side, each direction is correct. Now either get your brad nailer or your stapler. What you want to do is just line these edges up, make sure they're flush. And connect each end. Smear some glue in there. There you have it, guys. Inner hive cover for an 8-frame hive. Super simple project. You've got your rear opening. You've got an opening to the hive so the bees can access it either direction. Clean it up if you want. You can sand these edges down, sand the corners down. It's not really necessary though. The biggest thing you want to make sure of when you put it together is that the edges where these boards meet are smooth and flush on both sides. If not, you're going to have a small gap in your inner hive cover and the top honey super or brood box because it's going to be offset a little bit. So there's the project. Don't forget, we sell these on our website. Thanks for visiting funnybugbees.com and us on YouTube. If you liked what you saw here, please like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. We do giveaways for subscribers, so make sure you do it, and we'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.